Three words: beginning, middle, end. And I'm starting here because that really is the proper context, the proper perspective, the proper way to think about internal rate of return. I've been teaching this for a long, long time, as many of you probably know. And when I was, my first indoctrination to internal rate of return was when I was in a graduate program at WSU in the 80s. And it was not presented well. And to top it off, my presenter was a teacher's assistant, a TA, who was from a foreign country, which is fine, except he didn't speak English. And that sucked because I'm paying to go to college and I can't understand the guy. That wasn't cool. I actually talked to the department head about that. But anyway, so it was super difficult for me when I was first doing this. But I've taught enough times that I want to start with this basic idea of the beginning, the middle, and the end. And so this is what I call the investment life cycle. Okay. And if you stop and think about this, it applies to each, any, and every investment you'll ever make in anything for the rest of your natural life. Three things happen. Number one, you buy it. Number two, you own it. And number three, one of two things always happens at the end. And these things have to happen. They always happen. You either sell it or you die. And that is what I call the investment life cycle. And that applies to real estate, stocks, bonds, annuities, gold, Bitcoin, anything, everything. Okay. Beginning, middle, end. So that's the first thing to remember about internal rate of return. Okay. The second thing to remember about internal rate of return is that it is a cash model, not a price model. Okay. So when we're going about this internal rate of return business, the most difficult part of any IRR analysis, especially in real estate, is to get the correct cash flow information. Okay. That's the part that takes the longest. I'm going to put an Excel template in the chat here in just a second, and then we'll play with that together. But of all the data collection things that you need to do, getting the cash flow measured properly is the most difficult part of it. Okay. But this is a cash model, not a price model. Okay. Now I'm going to pause there again. When I teach Does It Pencil Course 1, and here's a shameless plug, I'm teaching it on the 13th and 14th through the Seattle King County Realtors, and you can register at nwrealtor.com or tell your friends. But when I start the course and what I call the opening salvo, the third thing that I talk about are the 5, one for each finger, benefits of owning real estate as an investment. Okay. And this is also a really, really important thing to think about. And it's integral, and it integrates into the internal rate of return model. Okay. So let me write down these benefits, and I suggest that you write them down as well, because the model captures all the benefits. So the benefits are appreciation, cash flow, mortgage reduction, taxes, and leverage.
Joe, you're not sharing screen, just FYI.
Yeah, I am.
He is.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
somebody not? It should be up there.
I can't see it, but okay, there's a different tab. Okay, my apologies.
Okay, so just real quick, we all understand appreciation. I bought it for this, I sold it for that. The spread is my profit. Okay, everybody gets that. Cash flow, as I just said, is the most difficult part of the analysis to do. And I'll expand this a little bit later, but just very quickly for now, just to listen to it. The cash flow is measured by the income minus the vacancy plus the other income minus the expenses minus the debt. And I'll write that down on the spreadsheet. But my point now is there's a specific formula that we use, especially
Now,
in real estate, to measure the cash flow. Critical skill must have to do a correct and complete IRR analysis. Okay. So it's a cash model. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is the cash that you put down to acquire the asset. Okay. It might be the down payment. It might be the down payment plus other costs that you pay, or it might be the price if you're paying all cash. But the point is, in the beginning, it's all the cash that you put down, whatever that is. In the middle, it's the cash flow, which one more time, I'll write it down, but just to hear it again, income minus vacancy plus other income minus expenses minus debt. That gives you something called the pre-tax cash flow. That's the middle. The end is what I call, and it's 4 words, write these down: pre-tax sales proceeds. Pre-tax sales proceeds. Those occur when you sell the asset, or if you're just doing a valuation, not intending to sell. All right. But the thing to remember about internal rate of return is that it is what I call a closed model, meaning it does not go on in perpetuity, meaning you are establishing a specific holding term for the asset. That's super important when you do IRR. It can't just go on indefinitely. You have to stop it at a point in future time. Now, once I learned how to do internal rate of return, like 35 years ago, and started spending more time with it, what I realized was that the big risk that you have with internal rate of return and forecasting is actually the end piece, because the end is where you recognize the appreciation. And if you are buying a property that is, I put money down to buy it, called cash out. And if I have negative cash flow, negative cash flow, negative cash flow, say over 3 years, that's the middle. At the end, I have to get a solid pop, or it was a stupid investment. Okay. Since about 2003, so about the last 20 years, what we've seen generally, this is the trend, because I'm more of a national guy, on the coastal markets, Seattle to San Diego, Manhattan to Miami. Some stuff in Texas, not really, but generally speaking, the coastal properties, those are appreciation plays. And for many, many years now, we'll say 20, I've watched specific transactions. I've been asked to analyze them. I've been hired as a consultant. And these small money deals, and I say small money, I'm going to call it new purchase money under $1 million, depending on your area. Most of them negative cash flow. Not all, but I will say most. Okay. So if you're an investor and you're going to buy this, you're buying native cash flow, you have to get appreciation, or why would you do it? Okay. But here's the thing about the appreciation, and that comes at the end of the beginning, middle, end scenario. And we forget about this because we become so punch drunk on it, mostly because of the affect of the lowering of interest rates, thanks to the criminals at the Fed during the COVID. And we're still dealing with that. And my forecast is it'll be about a 10-year play before that all washes through. We're about 3 or 4 years into it now. Anyway, to recognize the appreciation, you have to sell the asset. And people don't think about that. Like, oh, it's going up 20% a year. Well, that's cool. But how long is that going to happen? And that happened during the COVID time because of interest rates. And suddenly interest rates went up. And in many markets, the appreciation stopped or reversed. Not as drastically as I thought it would, by the way, but at some measurable level.